3.3, slope of a line. Now, when we get ready to graph, you'll hear the term slope. Slope is abbreviated as lowercase m. Now, first, I want to be able to give you 2 points, and you find the slope by using the slope formula. Now, the slope formula says you subtract your y's over the subtraction of your x's. So that would be y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. So let's find the slope. If you were given 2 points, 1, -2, and -3, -7. Now, in these ordered pairs, you know you have x and y, x and y. So I'm going to take my numbers, my x's and my y's, and plug them into this formula. So on top, I'm going to have my y's. So I have -2, that's a y, minus -7. That's what's on top. Now remember our operations. 2 negatives will end up making that a plus. So you might want to go ahead and put that's -2 plus 7 on top. On the bottom we have our x's, 1 minus a -3. And the same thing, those 2 negatives will make that become a plus 3. So you do your order of your operation. You got -2 plus 7 on top, which would give us 5 when you subtract. And you have 1 plus 3 on the bottom, which is 4. So 5 over 4 does not reduce. Keep it as an improper fraction, and your slope would be 5 over 4. All this is plug into this formula. Keep in mind there's a negative already in the formula. So that's why when you have a negative number behind it, it makes it a plus. Second example. I'm going to write the formula over here so I can have a little bit more room to do probably 2 problems. Let's do, we have 4, -1, and then we have -2, -8. So we're going to take our y numbers, which would be -1, minus a -8 on top. So that would be -1 plus 8. Those 2 negatives make a plus. On the bottom, our x's, we have 4 minus a -2. Again, those 2 negatives make a plus 2. So we'll do our operation. -1 plus 8 is 7. And 4 plus 2 is 6. So our slope is 7 over 6. Next example. -4, -5, and -5, -8. Plug it in. We're going to have -5 minus a -8, which that would make -5 plus 8 on top. Those 2 negatives make a plus. Our x's are on the bottom. -4 minus a -5. Again, those 2 negatives would make that a plus 5. So we have on top negative 5 plus 8, which will be 3. And then negative 4 plus 5 is 1. And 3 over 1, we know reduced to just 3. So our slope is 3. Next, we have 4, 3, and negative 6, 3. And we're finding the slope. So on top, we have our y's, 3 minus 3, over our x's, which would be 4 minus a negative 6, which we know that will give you 4 plus 6 on the bottom. But however, 3 minus 3 is 0. And we know that 0 on top of any number is just 0. So the slope is 0. Don't tell me 0 over 10. It's just 0. Okay. Next example, negative 8, 6. And then negative 8, negative 1. x1, x1. So our y numbers would be 6 minus a negative 1, which we know that would be 6 plus 1 on top. On the bottom, our x's, we got negative 8 minus a negative 8, which again, that would make that a plus 8. So 6 plus 1 is 7, but negative 8 plus 8 is 0. Now, 0 on top of the fraction we know equals 0, but 0 on the bottom of a fraction, it is undefined. And that's what you would tell me the slope is. Undefined. I must see the word undefined. Not 7 over 0. Anytime you have 0 on the bottom of a fraction, it is undefined. Okay? So these two are considered special slopes. 0 and undefined. Make sure you can distinguish between where the 0 is located. 0 on top, again, equals 0. 0 on the bottom equals undefined. Next, we're going to look at graphing equations of the lines. Now, our equations for lines, they can come in two main forms. First, ax plus by equals c. This is known as standard form. Okay? That's our standard form. X and Y is on the same side. Okay? Now, you're probably more familiar with Y equals mx plus b. Okay? That is our more famous form. And it's known as slope, intercept form. Slope-intercept form. And this form is the more go-to form for graphing. Mainly because in order to graph a line, all you need is a starting point and you need the slope. Slope is your movement. So in this actual form, M, you know I told you M represents slope. So that would be your movement. And then this b, lowercase b, it represents the y-intercept. So that's your starting point. If you have it in slope-intercept form, you can graph any line. All you do is put your first point on the y-axis at this particular number, and we would do the slope of this number. Slope is our movement. Let's go ahead and talk about that movement. Slope is also known as rise over run. Okay? Rise over run. Meaning that this number normally is in fraction form. If not, the bottom number is an understood 1. If you were to have 1 over 2 here for m, that means we will rise up one line on our grid. And we're going to go to the right 2 lines. And that's where you would put your next point. That's how all of your points are created on your line, by doing the movement of slope. Now, if you were to have 3x minus 6y equals 12. Now, granted, that's a line for an equation, and it's in standard form. This is standard form. So, I would like for you to put this in slope-intercept form. We need to know how to go between the two forms. Now, to put it in slope-intercept form, your main focus is to get y on the side by itself. So that means you're going to always start by moving 3x over, moving that x number to the other side. So I bring down my negative 6y equals, move 3x, and anytime you move across the equal doing adding and subtracting, you got to change signs. So that'd be a minus 3x, and I bring down my plus 12. So now you're going to divide everybody by negative 6 because you got to get y by itself. So I got to take the negative 6 off by dividing. And I have y equals, now 2 negatives we know make a positive. And also 3 over 6 you know reduces to 1/2. X, 12 divided by negative 6 is a negative 2. So this is the exact same equation. This is just in slope-intercept form. Okay, that's in slope-intercept form. Meaning that the number on x would be my m, my slope, 1/2. And my y-intercept is negative 2. That would be my y-intercept, negative 2. Okay? Now, you would need to graph this equation. And by graphing it, I would like to graph it by using the slope-intercept form. A piece of graph paper here. And I might have to zoom in on it so you can see it. Now you might can stop and zoom in a little bit better on your actual but I want to graph this equation. Now, negative 2 is where it's going to cross this y-axis. So I'm going to put my first point at negative 2. On the y-axis. Do y'all see that dot? Now my slope, I mentioned to you, is rise over run. Meaning I'm going to go up one line, I'm going to run 2 lines. So from this point, I'm going to go up 1, and I'm going to go to the right 2. I'm going to go up 1, to the right 2. Up 1, right 2. And once I have some points, I can connect. Now my line is a little crooked because I moved on me. But you can connect your points by drawing a line. And that's by graphing the y-intercept and doing the slope. Let's look at another one. Three x minus 2y equals 8 is our equation. 3x minus 2y equals 8. Let's put this in slope-intercept form. So we're going to solve for y by moving 3x over and making it negative. And then we're going to divide everybody by negative 2. So y equals 2 negatives make a positive, 3 over 2x, and 8 divided by negative 2 is a negative 4. So that's slope-intercept form. Here, 3 over 2 will represent my m, and negative 4 will represent my y-intercept. And if we were to graph, and I'll zoom in. We will zoom in. We will put our first point on the y-axis at negative 4. Keep in mind that y-axis is going up and down. So at negative 4, we will put our first point. And then from there, we're going to do the slope of 3 over 2, which means we're going to rise up 3 lines. 1, 2, 3. Run 2 lines. Rise up 3. 1, 2, 3. And run to the right 2 lines. Rise up 1, 2, 3. And run to the right 2 lines. And once you have some points, you can connect them. Now you can also plug in points and make a T-chart to also graph, to get points to graph that line. You can also do what we did in 3-2 and do x and y intercept. You can let x be 0 to find the y intercept, and you can let y be 0 to find the x intercept. That would also work here. Now, if you have any further questions when you get to your Mind Labs homework, because the graphing tool is a little different, please, please, please attend the Zoom section and I'll be able to answer your questions. But this will conclude 3.3 of slope of a line.